take the training on XchangeCore and the Clearinghouse in preparation for the national exercise and the custom exercise. It's going to be on feed data from other sources into your ArcGIS Online map. So I'm going to just go ahead and hand it off to Jim right away, and I'm going to mute my phone and take it away, Jim.
All right, thanks, Ann. Hi, everybody. Hope you've all had a good week since our last training session. Today, what we're going to be taking a look at is how you take the data that you've seen go into XchangeCore from a number of different ways and come out of XchangeCore into a number of different applications, but how you begin to structure it inside of ArcGIS Online, in particular using the feature called My Content. Now, My Content really has, or is, your personal repository of GIS data. You'll put lots of things in there, but this is going to show you how to bring the data in that is in XchangeCore and put it into your My Content. Our use case for this is that you want to consume into your ArcGIS Online and use that geospatial data that comes from all the different XchangeCore connected applications. For the exercise, what this means is that anywhere in the country, you can use the ArcGIS Online connector to XchangeCore and thus pull the information out of XchangeCore, put it into My Content, and create this inventory of GIS layers. You can then use those GIS layers directly from the data source and use them for anything that you want to. Put them up as dots on a map for your common operating picture, do geospatial analytics associated with them. That's up to you, because that then becomes data that is permanently, nothing's permanent, but it is permanently part of your inventory of GIS layers. So what we're going to learn today is how to use the XchangeCore connector for ArcGIS Online so that you can identify GIS layers that are related to an incident, bring those layers into My Content, and then visualize them on your ArcGIS Online map. Again, this is a practice session, so if you're set up, you've got your credentials to get in, go ahead and play along with me. Do what I'm doing, and I'll see things that you have added into the map at the same time that you're going to see the things that I'm putting on your own map. So, first the question is how GIS data gets into XchangeCore. That's over on the left-hand side. There are connectors. People build connectors, make them inherent with their application. We've seen NASA has done that, and Spot On Response has done that. Field Notes has done that. All those are what we call XchangeCore connectors, and they allow the data to be associated by that application itself. If, well, again, it's just staying on the left-hand side, you just have a little bit of data, all you want to do is poke it into an XchangeCore someplace. There's something called the Work Product Submitter. That is a Java tool. You can download it free. Download it, put it on your desktop, and you can say, gee, I'm going to sit there and touch this thing. Yeah, I got some data here, and I'm going to stick it onto XchangeCore. It's 4 or 5 little data elements that you fill out. Have to be authorized and credentialed to XchangeCore because we don't let just anybody in there, but that's available for you. The next way, and again, you still must be credentialed, but Poster. Anybody who's played around with internet data might be familiar with this. Freely downloadable, associated with Google or with Mozilla's Foxfire. It's a little tool that simply says, hey, where do you want to send this thing? Paste it in here. And we've shown you how to paste things in, how to put that information in and stuff the data in. Poster's not going to be as effective because you can't have secondary additions to the data. But if you want to stick one thing in for one incident, Poster will work. All right, so that said, let's take a look at what all this actually means and how it works. let's start out with my ArcGIS Online. And let me size that up here since it looks a little different to me. So let's pull in my ArcGIS Online. Yeah, that works. That fits. And what you see is this particular map that we've just created called Exercise Training has the connection into the XchangeCore information. There's a parking lot deformation, there are school closures, and over here are some buildings, and down here is some tree falling in the parking lot. You've seen that tree fall an awful lot recently. So, baseline, you got stuff, and that's all I'm giving you here is a picture that I have this map, and it has this stuff on it. Now we want to go out and do a better job of moving the information from one place to another. And what I'm going to do here, and I highlighted this because I want you to note that this is a different map. Since I'm working in one ArcGIS Online project here, it's a little less impressive. If any of you have your own project going and want to play along, let me know. I could even pass control of this over and you could show us what you're doing over there. So let me just offer that yet again. But what we want to do is take a look at what is in fact inside of XchangeCore. So I'm just going to give you a peek in here. You will, I guarantee you, never, ever, ever look at this, because this is the information that's sitting inside of XchangeCore. And if I come over here and say, let me see what incidents I have in here, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to have this, and we are going to be working on this all caps one, this bad disturbance that's taking place here. And pardon me for a second, I'm going to close down my Outlook so you're not bothered by that. Bad disturbance. I wrote it in all caps, and stuff gets put in here. Stuff gets put in about the incident command system, about incidents, and this map view context. This is where we store all the information that's associated with GIS data related to that bad disturbance. And what you're going to see here are some things that we've been putting in over the last few weeks. There's hazardous waste near disturbance, and you noted I misspelled that. You've got dams here as part of the Clearinghouse project. You've got dams for the bad disturbance incident. You've got hazardous waste sites. You've got wastewater treatment plants. You've got the NASA GPS strain over there. You've got Bay Area liquefaction zones. You've got a chemical plume. You've got East Bay petroleum facilities. That's all sitting inside of XchangeCore. It's gotten there in the ways that I described for you earlier. What I want to do is show you what we're going to do with it now. And want to illustrate, let's do it this way. Let me start out with ArcGIS Online. I'm going to go into my ArcGIS Online project here. And what this does is get me into the XchangeCore ArcGIS Online connector here. You're familiar with this. We played with this over the last couple of weeks. Looking at the same information that we have over there, the parking lot deformation, all the rest of it. And you saw this data that sits inside of ArcGIS inside of XchangeCore. Well, it comes out, and it comes out and is used. So first of all, I'm going to show you where it comes out inside of ArcGIS Online. XchangeCore connector up here, I click on it. It's going to come over here. You've got the Cal OES Keystone Core. I'm going to fetch data that's associated with it. Fetching that data.
Excuse me, Jim. I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but I'm getting a little bit of a delay on seeing what you're talking about. So
okay.
Your ArcGIS Online just popped up for me, so I don't know if anybody else is having that issue, but just an FYI.
Okay. So I've got the connector up at this point, and we just fetched the information. I'm going to roll down here and look for that all caps best wherever that, what the heck was that? Okay, what am I looking for here? There we go. Bad disturbance in the vicinity of the shopping mall. So I've now located that right over here, centered the map on it. And I'm less interested in that because we've already done that. We've drawn buffer zones around that. We've done all the rest of it. What I'm now interested in is this button down here in my XchangeCore connector for ArcGIS Online. If I click on it, what I get is a list of all of the map context layers. Same thing that you saw over there inside of XchangeCore. I'm now seeing inside of ArcGIS Online. There's petroleum facilities, chemical plume, and all the rest of it. What I'm going to do is enter these into my content. And that is done in the background. It's done in the background for a couple of reasons. GeoRSS is a very popular way to get information into ArcGIS Online. However, you can't enter it into my content. You can only put it on your map. You can't put it in my content. So the XchangeCore connector goes in the background and sticks it in there. So let's start out by taking a look at these dams. And those dams I want to submit into my content. And it comes back, it tells me this has been successfully submitted. It's given me a record number that's associated with ArcGIS Online. I'm going to say OK. Let's come back over here to this version of ArcGIS Online. I'm going to leave this map and come over here to my content. I'm going to come in here, and what I see in this, my Marentz home page here, is this. You'll note that it's the first thing that's come in there, except for creating of that web map. It's the first thing that we've put in, automatically shared to everybody, and it's a feature layer, and it's called dam. It's exactly what it was that we looked at before. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to add that layer to the map. Now, it's permanently in your My Content. You're going to be able to go back and do it anytime you want to. And those dams are somewhere up here in the north. Yep, there we go. I have dams. I click on that. I got the little pop-up, and this is all of the data that was in the original ArcGIS Online that has gone to XchangeCore and is now available in any other ArcGIS Online. What's the value of this? Because if I'm in the same organization, somebody could send me an email and say, go look at my dams. If I'm in a different organization, I can't get to it unless it's been shared out to everyone, as some of this has been. But that means it's shared to everyone. So you want to maintain a little bit of control over your data? This moves the information from a project to a different project, gives you permissions to get it if you've been allowed to be part of that team. And most importantly, what you're getting are 5 dams here. If I had gone in and looked at this layer of dams in ArcGIS Online, I'd have 400 dams here in California. These are the ones that we determine are relevant to this particular problem. So again, I'm cutting across the systems that don't talk to each other. I'm moving the data that I want, not all the data that exists. And I'm providing it in relationship to the incident. So providing a little bit of that continued orchestration that XchangeCore does. Let's come back here. Let's do it again. Let's go pick some, actually, I'll tell you what. I'm going to do one more of these. Let's do hazardous waste sites. Now let's do this chemical waste treatment plant. Just to show you how it goes. We have selected it, clicked on it, come back and get the instructions saying that it's okay. We're there. Now I go back to a different, pretend I'm a different person now, and I go to my content. and I'm going to say, gee, you know what? I now have wastewater treatment plants. It's a feature layer just arrived. I now want to see that and add that to my map. And bingo, back over here on this ArcGIS Online, I'm now adding those specific wastewater treatment plants. Couple things we're going to learn right now. Click on that, you get nothing. That's because data as it's set in the external system is how you're going to view it in the system that you are looking at. So let's go look at those wastewater treatment plants. Let's say, do you have any data? Yes. It says enable pop-up here. If it does that, then you're going to get the pop-up data that's associated with it. And if I now click on that, bingo. I've got my wastewater treatment plants and all the related information associated with it that was in the original ArcGIS that built this data, provided it to ArcGIS Online. So important to understand your data and to not expect everything to work the same because the data isn't the same. Just like when you take it out of one ArcGIS Online and put it into another one. So now I'm going to give you a couple more examples. Those were all native ArcGIS data. Now we got some data over here that is created from an external system. It's a KML data. It was part of a Google Earth project and converted into Google Earth. And although ArcGIS Online can read KML data, does a nice job of that, it's not as well formed and you don't have as many capabilities as the native ArcGIS Online data. So you saw we picked that Bay Area liquefaction zones, submitted that, come back over here to my content. Let me refresh that. And with a little luck, we see we got Bay Area liquefaction zones. It's a KML type. I'm going to add that layer to my map. And what I'm going to get is that popping up. And so my Bay Area liquefaction zones have been added at the bottom. And what we see are all those liquefaction zones. So we've got the XchangeCore incidents. We've got a number of different elements here that have been added through XchangeCore, including this polygon associated with the Bay Area liquefaction zones. I'm going to come back here and do this one more time, but I'm going to show you something different. I'm going to take this chemical plume. Again, we've seen it in a number of different places. It's now been successfully added. I'm going to come back over here to this other instance. I'm going to go to my content. And when we come back to my content, we ought to see the chemical plume from the Richmond area. Oddly enough, it's called a document link rather than a KML. And if we take a look at this, you don't get to open it on the map. You only get to view the item details. Something in the way ArcGIS Online is treating the data or where the data was prepared. With that, though, what I want to do is come over and give you a couple of other illustrations of how that map context information is used. Because let's come to Google Earth, where I'm going to go find that there we go, the big bad disturbance. I got that. I've got my map context there. I'm going to click on that. And what I get is that map context data that you saw in ArcGIS Online, that you saw in the usage core, is right here. There's my hazardous wasps, my XchangeCore, my dams, all my other stuff, my XchangeCore training, waste treatment plants. I want to illustrate something for you because the data is king as far as XchangeCore is concerned, but it's the applications that have to deal with it. So you saw that plume was not very attractive and wasn't available inside of ArcGIS Online in the format that it was provided there. However, if I come in here in the native Google Earth that understands KML better, I get that plume. So you're going to have to understand your data, maybe massage it a little bit to make certain that you're able to get the information that you want. So just a quick illustration there, and wanted to show you the different way that we're looking at the same data here again, that map context data. Now, you saw it in ArcGIS Online connector that allows you to move it into my content and make some decent sense of it. You saw it over there with Google Earth. Let's take one more look here at spot on response, because here we treat it a little bit differently. Here's my bad disturbance. I'm going to hit my bad disturbance, and what I'm going to see here are all the different kinds of, stretch that out a little bit, different kinds of layers that we saw before, hazardous wastes and dams and all the rest of it. Want to note a couple of things. Right now, Spot on Response doesn't understand ArcGIS Online speak. So if I look at that dams for the disturbance and come over there, what I'm going to get is all of this data, exactly what I want to get, but it's not interpretable right now with Spot on Response. Spot on Response does a better job of being able to show you what's happening. And let's go to that plume. If I hit the plume there and come back, I've got the plume up here. So it understands that, doesn't understand the native ArcGIS Online information quite as well. Let's look at that liquefaction zone just so you have another picture of it. You got the liquefaction zones there. You've got the liquefaction zones there, wherever they were. Yes, that was on ArcGIS Online, where the liquefaction zones back on that map, and liquefaction zones, if I dig around in here and find my map context and come down here and find liquefaction zones, that looks like them. I'm going to get them, in theory, to pop up and be viewable on, there we go, inside of ArcGIS Online. So there are your liquefaction zones, and if I come back over here to those liquefaction zones, add them to the map. We already did that, but that was my fastest way there. And I'm going to pick up liquefaction zones. So the ability to move this information across all different systems and base that on the map context, the OGC standard that sits in the background, gets filled up, as we saw before, in a number of different ways, and then is taken out, viewed, and formed into different formats. Google Earth, sort of ugly to be able to do that. That's my view of my map context. Very nice look over here when I put it all into my content over there, a manual process to move things out, and then Spot on Response that just reads that automatically and creates this list of GIS layers associated with my bad disturbance in the vicinity of the shopping mall. With that, I'll stop. We've got a few minutes for questions, or if anybody's been playing along, I can hand you control and you can show me what you've got. Questions, comments, thoughts?
Well, this is Ann, if nobody has a comment. One of the ways you can be using this and playing with it for the exercise is sweet time to be at a 3-day SEMA military OES planning meeting for the exercise coming up in May. And they're talking about the incident reports and the damage that's going to be coming in from the counties and the cities within the first 24 hours. And just for LA County alone, they're identifying 1,000 different structures that have been damaged. Well, imagine, okay, you get 1,000 reports of damaged buildings coming in, and you've got those 1,000 points on your map. And then, say 10 hours later, there's an aftershock, and you want to take a subset of those. You've got information coming in, and there are the subset of those original 1,000 reports of damaged buildings that are now more critical than, so maybe you've got 100 that are more critical than the rest of them. And you want to draw attention to that, and you want to share all of those out. That's where this sort of data orchestration becomes important, because in a disaster, you're going to have lots and lots of information coming in, and you want to be able to pull bits and pieces of it and highlight it and send it off, to different people for different uses. So rather than sending off the entire layer of all the 1,000 buildings where you've got reports of damage, you can just share out, these are the ones that are most important with relation to this latest aftershock. Those are the kinds of things that we should be thinking about, that we're going to be, would be practical to use, in the disaster and in the exercise. So just a little heads up for what we're going to be practicing and what might be helpful to you.
Actually, you used the word orchestration, and that was a phrase that I wanted to focus on just briefly since we have one more minute. When you look at the Google Earth instance of this, here is an incident, the bad disturbance, and all of the map layers that are associated with it. It retains the orchestration because that's what happens inside of XchangeCore. All this information is mapped with that particular location. Spot on Response does the same thing. It allows you to be able to pull this information together around an incident. In ArcGIS Online, you lose that connection, which is why it's important to understand, and why I think that the work that we've been doing on essential elements of information becomes important, because these could be categorized as part of essential elements of information. These are structures, even though it happens to be a chemical structure, it would be a structure. We begin to establish some commonality there, because when I go back to the map here, what I find is that I now have lost that association, because I've got all these incidents and I don't necessarily know which incidents are associated with which GIS layers. You want to do it both ways. You want to be able to look at all GIS layers, as well as be able to drill down in the previously orchestrated connection between GIS information and specific incidents. When you think of the incident as the earthquake, hey, that becomes irrelevant. But when you think of the incident as unreinforced masonry buildings in the XYZ residential area, then you want to be able to associate that information to that particular problem so that everybody knows what you're talking about. So that orchestration, key element, and again, orchestrated inside of XchangeCore. How external applications deal with it is up to them. Anything else, Anne?
Any final questions? Any comments? And just as a heads up, I mentioned that I'm at the planning meetings this week, so they're getting much closer to figuring out how they're all, who's going to be doing what and when. So I will be sending out an email hopefully next week or so, kind of just distilling all of that information as far as what the clearinghouse is going to be doing for the exercise, and then your individual organizations, you can coordinate your particular play. So what I'm trying to do is make things as simple as possible and to make sure that we get maximum exposure for all of our participating organizations. You all do a great job. So that's all I have this week. Any other questions?